The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings and welcome to another feel-good episode of Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pete's House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jacky Lambert. Thank you for joining us bright and early on this Monday morning. Jacky, how are you feeling today?
Good, fresh-ish.
Fresh-ish. I love it. Well, as you all can see, Jacky and I are definitely ready to bring you some feel-good vibes this morning. Make sure you share this episode with your circle. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you take a minute and write a post. Share it with your friends on Facebook. For those of you on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and then drop the link in your WhatsApp group chat. And to all of our tweets over there on Twitter, make sure you retweet it because our feel-good topic of the day is forgive and forget. Convicted celebrities and their careers. We were discussing whether we should be forgiving, then forgetting, or completely canceling any public figures that have been convicted of a crime. And our feel-good vibe of the day is joke time with Jacky. So if you want to laugh to get your morning started, make sure you stick around for that later on. Now, we want to transition or start today's episode off with our feel-good warm-up. And yesterday, the government announced that they intend to rename Corkscrew Hill, Flora Duffy Hill, and there is a potential to rename National Stadium to Flora Duffy Stadium. This is all in recognition of her historic achievement in winning Bermuda's first Olympic gold medal. So our feel-good question of the morning is, what are your thoughts on Flora Duffy's recognition? Jack, there was, a bit of conversation in the group chats last night. What were your thoughts? Because I don't think you actually shared your actual thoughts last night.
I didn't. I was watching the group chat just fire away, and I was just like, ooh, these guys never let me catch up. So I was sitting there trying to catch up, and I was like playing hopscotch, double dutch.
A little bit of
both. Trying to get in. I was just like, I'll save it for the show tomorrow. But on the first part, the heel, renaming Corkscrew Hill to Flora Duffy Hill, I think it makes sense. She competed on that hill. She marked guys on that hill.
Definitely.
She dusted everybody. So I think that that's a great way to recognize her. Now, going towards the possibility of renaming National Stadium, I'm a little on the fence about that. Mainly because somebody made a point. She doesn't, that's not her, those aren't her sports per se. Because it's swimming, it's field hockey, there's football, that's a bunch of different sports. And somebody made a comment that's renaming some other stadium after her, the equivalent of renaming the W.E.R. Joe Tennis Stadium after Flora Duffy. That might be a little reach, but at the same time, I get it. And I think that maybe we should rename one of the schools, the halls.
Yeah.
Some of the halls, I know not all halls are, I think some of them, do they all have names?
I haven't noticed, to be honest, but
Sorry, I know she meant Port Royal, and I think that
I was going to say that.
Port Royal. So if they maybe reconsider closing Port Royal.
Yeah.
And then, put a plaque up there, change the hole's name, because that's where she was developed.
She got it.
That's where exactly. I remember doing cross countries with her, and I think that would be dope as well. But I don't know. I think they should hold off on the stadium. But obviously that's all speculation. We haven't heard that. That's not concrete. What they are doing is Corkscrew Hill, and I'm all about it, because going down the hill, walking is a struggle.
It's
And
intense.
she, yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
And I see we have Sean Smith in here with us. Good morning to you, Sean Smith. Audience, as you are joining, let us know what your thoughts are on Flora's recognition as Bermuda's first Olympic gold medalist. We shared that Corkscrew Hill is on the books to be renamed Flora Duffy Hill. And I saw the National Stadium part of the conversation as well. I feel like they're both technically proposed because even with her day, it wasn't official until it was, I guess, motioned in the Senate, and then there was no objections to it, which I think every Bermudian was going to take the 18th of October off anyway. It was just like, okay, you've now made it official. So now we don't lose a day for vacation.
I'm for it. I'm for most of it.
Definitely. And I see we have a comment from Renita Gorham. Yes, that looks like Gorham. I'm going to pray that I pronounced it correctly. Morning or Work Academy was more where she started triathlon. I get that point, but I also feel like Work Academy isn't going to do...
So actually what happened was Mr. Custodio was her gym teacher that developed all of us and our love for cross-country running, sports period. Like he threw us into everything. And then he went to Work Academy, which she went to as well. So I know that played a big role in her love for running, and he actually used to pick us up to take us to our Saturday cross country long distance running, like if it was running Aswa Park or National Stadium. We would all walk out to the roadside if our parents couldn't, because I couldn't always get a ride to the races. And he'd pick us up like a little school bus. But I think Work Academy should give us something as well, like some money back for all her
efforts. I definitely feel like, so I guess I agree with Jackie on the Corkscrew Hill. I feel like Corkscrew Hill should definitely be renamed Flora Duffy Hill. I feel like there is going to be a generation that will still call it Corkscrew Hill, and then there will be a generation that call it Flora Duffy Hill. And that's with just everything, right? Because it wasn't the name when you were coming up, so it's probably not going to be the name that you automatically go to. However, because there's not much that can be renamed for her in honor of her sport, like there's no beach that's going to get renamed after her. Because, I mean, maybe they could pick a beach, but then there's like Corkscrew Hill, that's the road part of the triathlon. So like other than...
Name the Flora Hobby. Harbor in South Hamilton Harbor or anything like that.
I feel like that's gonna probably be another thing that could possibly work, because like you mentioned, and as was shared in the group chat, because she doesn't do track, she doesn't do any of those sports that National Stadium is known for, it's going to be difficult to kind of see the alignment without feeling that a previous Olympian got snubbed. So it's kind of like, if you want to keep Flora's recognition all about Flora, let's find ways where it's directly connected to the triathlon. I feel like if it becomes not connected to the triathlon, then you stir up that conversation, which is still going on, because the first Bermudian Olympian to win a medal, period, still hasn't been honored and recognized in a way that I feel like people will be able to stop talking about it. So it's like, if you want Flora to have her moments, let's make it all about her sport. And if you're not going to honor the previous Olympian, well,
I think that we need to give Flora her flowers right now and sort out everything to celebrate Flora, and then we can circle back and fix everything that went wrong with Clarence. Like, I think we need, Mr. Hill, because he's definitely my senior. Give him his respect. But no, I think we need to sort out, and we need to make sure that Flora doesn't get these same drop off as Clarence. We need to make sure that we follow through with her celebration, and then we can circle back and right the wrongs of Clarence Hill, which do need to be corrected. What generation is going to actually take responsibility? We don't know. It may be this governing body, it may be the next one, or it may just be all of Bermuda pushing back and saying, look, like, we've been talking about this for a while. Flora got her flowers. Let's go back and, give something to Clarence. Like, we have all these ferries that are named after nobody. Like, we
won't say that they're named after nobody, but some of these names are definitely...
You don't think
they don't make any connection?
Corona one?
I mean, I definitely think. But first of all, Rona needs to get a whole new ferry before we even consider renaming it
I feel sorry for you every time I see you on that ferry because I was at Rockaway catching the fast ferry. I'm looking at this little Popeye sit like Popeye.
It was so funny. So when I first caught that ferry, I was meeting my best friend Neil in Taun, and I told him I was catching the ferry. He's like, "You're catching the slow ferry?" I was like, "Well, it's not that slow." I mean, it is
slow. It's like SpongeBob. Half an hour later.
It is slow, but I think it's okay because, it's the ferry. So I'm not looking for the fast ferry experience when I catch my little lower ferry. I am looking for a nice slow ride, catch the breeze. It's really nice. I do love Brno. However, I definitely would say that if we do get a new fleet of ferries, although it's not in alignment with, his sport, but it would be nice to honor him in a way that, can live on forever. Absolutely. So I want to bring in this comment from Sean Smith before we take our first commercial break. He asks, did they ever finish the boxing gym from Mr. Hill?
See, and that's actually what I was thinking about just now. I don't know if you saw my eyes moving. I think the best thing that they can do is there is still space up National Stadium to put in a boxing gym. It doesn't have to be anything huge because they already have the actual physical gym. You have the track. They just need somewhere for people like maybe 1 or 2 rings and then a bunch of equipment to throw in there. So probably on top of the meeting hall. I can't remember what it's called right now. But there's definitely space for them to rectify that up National Stadium because everywhere else has something I have my national tennis facility. We have the national baseball pitch. Like everywhere else has something, but boxing seems to have been forgotten.
Cricket doesn't have a space either, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole other day.
They kind of use national stadium for training sometimes. So, but obviously we could fix that. That's a lot needs to be rectified. Let's start a list.
We will get the list game. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we'll be right back with more of Good Day Bermuda. So make sure you don't go anywhere.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. And if you're just joining us, our field goal warm-up, we were discussing the recognition that Flora Duffy is going to receive in honor of being Bermuda's first gold Olympian medalist. And if you are just joining us, feel free to drop your comments into the comment section. It looks like Renita confirmed that they were definitely making attempts to give Mr. Hill a gym in his name and a gym named in his honor, which I definitely think is a great attempt. It's just the follow through. It's the follow through. And I think there was, she says the gym was in St. George's, but the building was deemed unfit. But it's like, okay.
Bermuda, it's a process to get a go ahead in Bermuda. Like planning. Is long-winded. So
planning.
I don't know how we can hurry that along or find other solutions, but I hope we don't lose the plot.
It's the momentum because I feel like even with with the floor conversation, it's like the Olympics were recent. We're giving her recognition soon after that. So I just feel like that's kind of the point. It's to make sure it is relatively close to when they got the award, because the longer you wait, you lose the steam and then people start to have a different connotation towards it. It's like, it just feels now that anytime you bring up Clarence Hill and the lack of celebration he got, it feels so negative. And it's like, we just want to celebrate him so that, Well,
a lot of people had that argument, oh, well, since then he's done X, Y, and Z. You also got to remember that was like a spiral effect, right? So he came home, and you got to understand, you're going out there, you're spending all this money, because most of the time government or even your governing body of the sport or even Bermuda Olympic Association don't have the funds to support you because you're either a Class B or Class C athlete. So you don't get the full funding that you need. So you're busting your tail to fund your own way to carry a flag of a country that doesn't have your back, to win a medal, which is hard enough in not being in the Olympics. So you have to qualify for the Olympics, then fight in the Olympics. There's a lot of fighting leading up to it. To then come home with a medal, like people that get in the Olympics should be celebrated. Like everybody should be at the airport. Motorcade should be leaving from the airport, going through the island because you made it to the Olympics. Like, what's higher than the Olympics?
Space.
So he came home and nobody recognized him, and it just kept going and going and going. That makes you feel low to come home with a medal and walk out your airport and nobody's there. And I know from experience, so don't come talking about it's not that serious. It is. It is very expensive to play any sport in Bermuda, and it's expensive to even leave the country just to go to school if you got a full ride. It is $500 minimum to leave. Then you have to think about equipment, transportation, food, everything. And most times if you're competing at that level, your diet is so particular, it's so expensive. So then you're doing all this to come home and be like, I got my country a medal, and they couldn't even take a 10-minute drive to the airport to clap for 10 minutes.
Well, definitely we continue this conversation because I feel like because the conversation starts and then it stops, it starts and then it stops. It's like with all things. If it loses momentum, you're never going to see the action taken. So I definitely think that there will be multiple parts of this. This is probably I don't know how many time we've talked about it, but we'll continue to talk about it because it's important to us.
Not to change it real quick, because we met Clarence Hill, like we met him on our tour, and I hope people don't think that he's walking around angry because he was very happy.
He was very joyous
to us. His said, congratulations to Flora. So a lot of people that are angry, I think he's probably over. He's just like, I've accepted it, and has moved on. But I know a lot of people that are still like, I'm still hurt.
I'm hurt for him, and I guess because I didn't know about it.
But I can be hurt, and I can still celebrate Flora fully. Like I still support everything. So I just want to clarify that before anybody goes around saying that I don't support Flora. I do. Like
we absolutely do want her to
my
get
parents were at the US Open, and she asked how I was, and I was just like, make sure she knows that I'm home throwing paddles in the air.
We have this comment from Sean Smith. He says, what is near and dear to Miss Duffy's heart? Maybe we should ask her what she would like. I feel like that's somewhat of an obvious thing too, right? It's kind of like, what would Flora want in celebration of her? Because maybe she doesn't want Corkscrew Hill to be named after her. Maybe she doesn't want the stadium to be named after her. Maybe there is something else that she would prefer, which I would be interested to hear from her. Like, what is there anything?
If she's still as humble as maybe as the last few times I've had an encounter with her, she's probably gonna be like everybody else, like, oh, this is what do I want? Like, it's
you're asking me a pretty loaded question.
Right, like, what do I want?
It is a pretty loaded question for
like $1 million, but since we can't get that, you could just, make sure other children are exposed to triathlons and, make it more known when the schedule is. Most people just want exposure for the sport because they love it so much.
Right. And they know if they love it, other people might love it as well. And other people who may not be exposed to it may not even realize that they might be just as good, if not better, than Flora at the same thing. So just having the opportunity to try out would be enough. I totally agree. Now, if you're just joining us, we're going to switch over to our feel-good topic of the day, which is forgive and forget convicted celebrities and their careers. So the WhatsApp group chats were definitely popping for us over the weekend. And so there was conversation around, if you didn't know, R. Kelly is convicted of, I think it was all of the charges that were against him in relation to the sexual harassment, sexual assault, that have been going on for decades, apparently, at this point. Well, not apparently, it's no longer alleged. He's convicted of it. So we want to talk about convicted felons, or not, excuse me, not felons, convicted celebrities and their careers, because one of the things, I mean,
that's a lot of people.
Maybe it's a felony. But one of the things that kind of came up last night in our conversation was how often we tend to forget, or we tend to give a pass to a celebrity that we may have loved or they are doing something that we enjoy. We get joy from whatever it is that they're doing. And so we can tend to just, like, put it to the side, or it's not that bad, or we don't think about it as much as maybe the victim or the victim's families. So we wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts? Excuse me, this isn't supposed to be a ticker, so let me just change that real quick. Boop and boop. What are your thoughts on forgiving celebrities that have been convicted of crimes? Like, what are your thoughts on actually forgiving them and moving on? Because it's one thing to say, okay, so and so did X, so and so did Y, but should we be forgiving them? Jackie, what are your thoughts?
I am very big on case by case situations. So I know we were talking about R. Kelly, and it's kind of hard to get over it. Obviously, growing up, we listened to a lot of his music young. Like, I Believe I Can Fly was some people's graduation songs from primary and middle school.
Yep.
So you had to learn that. So that became a habit to hum in your head, and now you have to remove that part of your childhood. That's hard. And a lot of people will play his songs, and sometimes you forget, and you're just like, you sit there and you sing it because you've been singing it. I'm 33. I've been singing it for the past 10, 15, 20 years. And it's just a song that plays in your head. And yes, I think he should be canceled. I hate saying that because it's not just his music, right? It's not just his songs that he's written and sang. It's songs that he's written and other artists have sang that we don't. That list is so vast. Like that list is so long. And I actually had to sit here. But what keeps playing in my mind is he was luring and him and his team were luring children, young children. And he calls himself the Pied Piper. And if you look at the definition of the Pied Piper, like, he was telling on himself and we weren't even paying attention. Like, why we never pay attention to the lyrics? Because the actual music is sultry, or it's nice and it's feel good, so you like the beat and stuff. And then you listen to some of the lyrics and you're just like, oh, he actually has a really nice voice, so it's easy for everything to be catchy.
Yeah.
So then you're like, and then Pied Piper, and I'm just like, oh, Pied Piper. I remember saying to my sister, I'm like, I'm sorry, Pied Piper, Pied Piper. I'm like, isn't that like basically what's his name, Peter Pan and all these little things? Like, his deliberately luring you in to take advantage of you and change your. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's actually a lot to unpack. I honestly
going back and listening to some of his songs, and I'm sitting there like, when you were talking yesterday and ranting, I was going through all of the R. Kelly songs in my head, and I'm like, wow, he's dirty.
It's really interesting that you brought up the term or his title of himself, Pied Piper, because I actually never made the connection until just now. Like, obviously, most of us know what the Pied Piper is, what he did, what it stands for. And so in that context, you understand it. But when it's applied to a Black man, a Black artist, someone that you've been listening to for so long, and he did it. Like, it's not like someone gave him that title and he just kind of ran with it. It was actually a part of his branding. So for him to like put that out there, and then for all of us to just kind of naively blindly let that go.
You know how crazy it is that as an adult, he is still diluting our reality to support him and we're grown. Like, so we're already easily manipulated as children, and you're easily manipulating adults. Like, those children didn't stand a chance. So when you watch his what was it on Netflix?
Surviving R. Kelly.
Right. So when you watch them, like, I watched a little bit because it started to get too heavy. But to know that they were like in-house fighting because one wanted to leave, the other one didn't want to leave, the moms were trying to get their children back. Like, he full-on brainwashed the entire world into loving him past all of his evil doings. That's crazy.
And I actually want to bring up, so another celebrity that was convicted and then ultimately got his sentence revoked was Bill Cosby. And I just want to talk about, because on the first instance he was convicted, and then the sentence got commuted, or it's no longer where he's out of jail now. And so, like, in those moments, like, should we still cancel a public figure that served time for a crime that they committed. So you got convicted, you're now going to jail, you've been to jail, whether it's 1 year, 1 month, 10 years, a lifetime. Should we still cancel that public figure? Like, should we still say, okay, we're no longer going to watch The Cosby Show, we're no longer going to listen to R. Kelly's music? Or is there a part in the conversation where, okay, if you've done your time and you're ready to make changes, whether I agree or I think you've made the change or not is irrelevant, but if you're going to, serve your time and come back out into society, should we then give you a second chance?
Once again, I'm big on case by case. If by chance when he comes out, he has had a coming to life moment, he admits that he was doing wrong, he's actually consistently making those changes, he's apologized publicly, profusely to his victims, he's made amends, whether it's financial or just completely disappearing off the face of the earth, not, dying.
Right.
But, because you can't heal in the same place that hurt you. So to heal from being attacked or raped or how at gunpoint, whatever the situation is, by a celebrity, by a public figure, and then to turn around, he says it's not true or she says it's not true. They finally get him convicted, and then 10 months later, after years of torment and torture, he finally gets free again. Like you barely had a sentence. Like that's like saying, all right, Timmy, you're naughty. You've been pestering the whole class for 3 hours. Go sit in the corner. Well, how long do I have to sit in the corner? I'll decide once you get there. And he sits there and he knows that he only has to be quiet for 1 minute to get out. And then he comes back out and he does the exact same thing. If you're going to be a repeat offender constantly and you're not going to get the time served, you're not going to be able to change. They shouldn't have let him out that easily or that soon. He should have at least done 5 years. And last I checked, it hasn't been 5 years. I know COVID's been around for what seems like a decade, but it hasn't been 5 years minimum. And I just want to know how much time does it take for somebody to realize that they've done wrong, because they've been living this all these years, covering the backsides, pretending that it didn't happen, calling everybody else crazy. And so that's a lot. No.
Do you think so? I want to ask the audience too, because we have some comments that I want to bring in, but I also want to get the audience thinking about what Jackie just said. Do you think there is a length of time that is justified outside of the sentence, right? Because that's what the criminal justice system is supposed to do. They give you a sentence that they deem is appropriate for your crime based on the evidence presented and everything that they have taken into account for the case. So that's obviously what the sentence is supposed to do. But from a empathetic perspective, do you think that there is a length of time that should be kind of, that you would say is, that's like Jackie said 5, right? So is 5 years enough, or is it 10 years? Is it 15? Like, what kind of number would make the conversation around canceling a celebrity kind of, okay, null and void, we can restart? And the reason why I want to do that is because I see this comment from Sean Smith. He says, hey, everybody knew what R. Kelly was all about. Don't forget, this is the guy that wanted to marry Aaliyah when she was in her early teens. Yes, let's talk about that real quick, because what's interesting is the album that first came out by Aaliyah, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. For me, when I listen to that song, I'm thinking of like when I was in my 14, 15-year-old, like, not necessarily age ain't nothing but like I want to date somebody older than me, but just like for me, like I took it as like I'm wise at this age, like I can be just as smart, if not smarter than people that are older than me. So I definitely did not take it in the context that it was probably meant to be taken in as. So I don't know if I'm probably an anomaly. Jackie, how did you take Age Ain't Nothing But a Number as an album?
Well, I was young and I was naive and probably a little too sheltered. So I remember going to my sister and being like, you listen to these lyrics? You see this music video? Are they together? Because our clan is like 40 and she's like 10. So that doesn't make sense. That can't be right. That can't be right, right? That's not a thing. Like, the world won't allow that to happen. They won't let a child. I mean, they do let it in certain countries. So there's that.
And that's another part of the conversation too, right? Because speaking specifically on the R. Kelly and Aaliyah saga, in some cultures, they do get,
as young as 12,
arranged marriages. There's, you don't have certain rights over your body. You are probably never having the autonomy that you should have as a human being in certain cultures. So that's also like an interesting thing when you think about the context of the Western world and like the other parts of the world where there are those cultural differences. Like it's very interesting because I feel like if this was in another part of the world, it wouldn't be talked about. It would be like that's regular stuff. Like the fact that you guys are so mad is actually what's more concerning to us than the actual incident. And I want to come back to something you said earlier about R. Kelly. Renita says brainwash is a bit much. He's a talented artist. You can't deny his talent. Their body of work has nothing to do with their crimes. I kind of want to talk about this a little bit further, only because it is difficult to say that their body of work had nothing to do with their crimes when the two could essentially be connected. Like,
but with R. Kelly, remember he was doing these stories, right? So a lot of his stuff is his singing
in the closet.
He's singing about his life experience. A lot of artists sing about it. We're talking about Jacky and some of his lyrics, and some things like some people are coming about, coming to realization of their wrongdoings or the good things in the world. And Michael Jackson was, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Whitney was, I want to dance with somebody. And she was singing about being in love with the wrong man. Like she was doing a lot. Like, so I don't know if we can actually separate the two unless it's a different artist writing their music and they're just singing it. Like most artists, when I write in my journal, I'm not a lyricist, but when I write in my journal, it's about my experiences, and they're able to write in their journal about their experiences and then transfer it into music. Yes, he's an amazing artist. I'm never going to deny that. I actually said it. But how do we punish them if not for cutting off their music and cutting off their funds? It's the same thing when the blacks want to make white people that, I'm just going to call it out, the restaurant that's on Front Street where the guy made those nasty comments. Mm-hmm. We all know who he is, and I'm not going to say his name. I don't know if I can. We stopped supporting that restaurant for a while. They had to feel it, and then he came out and he apologized, and he's still asking, borderline begging for people to come back and support his business because he actually employs Black people, and that list goes on. But at what point do we punish our own the way that we know that they'll actually feel it?
And in that vein, though, before you go on, Jack, in that vein, I just want to talk about we talked about acceptable punishment, obviously, in the criminal justice system. And then at what point do we say, when are you going to take accountability for whatever it is that you did? Like, okay, you said that this didn't happen. You've been convicted. At what point are you going to stop lying to yourself about the situation and just acknowledge that you have hurt someone, even if your intention was not what happened? Like, I'm not trying to give any predator an excuse. I'm just saying I can see how you believe that wasn't an issue. I could see how someone believes that it is what it is. How twisted you are as a person is irrelevant in the conversation. At what point are you going to say, all right, I've hurt a group of people, I've hurt someone, I've caused trauma in someone's life, whether I intended to do that or not is not the point. At what point do you think someone should take the ownership and just kind of say, okay, enough is enough. I need to kind of say sorry. Like, because I feel like we talked about R. Kelly, but R. Kelly's situation just recently happened. So I don't know what time frame he's going to accept accountability. But Bill Cosby has happened. Jacky has happened. I see some comments. Renita says Elvis Presley. I don't really listen to rock music like that, so I don't know the story about Elvis Presley. So please let me know in the comments what that is all about. And Anika the Shield says both predators. There was another one too, Jerry Lewis. So speaking of all of these public figures, like at what point should they be coming out to say, all right, you know what I did was wrong. Here's how I'm trying to change it so that the next group of generation or the next group of people don't make the same mistake as I. Because I feel like that is where it kind of stops. It just stops at the conviction and then we just move on. But like,
it's fine, move on. But he hasn't accepted accountability. He hasn't apologized. So, like, have we really fixed anything? I mean, some people do deserve to here, I apologize. Even if it was a mistake. You much times there's been an accident outside my house and like nobody had intentions of hitting the other person, but you're just like, I had no intentions. I didn't even see what was happening. I apologize. And you move on. And then that person's like, you know what? That's fine. This is what you can do to rectify the situation.
Yep.
But we can't just keep brushing to the side, because sometimes it's not even just about R. Kelly or anybody else. Sometimes we're going to make sure that the victims get what they deserve and what they need to move on and be able to go through life. Because nothing's wrong about Kelly. Like, he did what he did and he's able to go about his life, even though he's in jail. So it's not really much of a life, but I'm sure that he's not going to have it as hard as other people that are in the same.
And I actually want to bring in this comment from Davika Hill, because it's actually what you just said. I think the situation between R. Kelly and Aaliyah also brings up the issue of sexualization of minors in the music and entertainment industry. And that's really it too, right? That's a key point, because
look at Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown was singing those lyrics, and I didn't even realize how young she was until maybe like 5 years ago.
That says a lot, because we were listening to that heavy in our younger days.
So, I mean, we got some work to do.
There's a lot of work to do, absolutely. And before we take our second commercial break and final commercial break of today's episode, I want to bring in this comment from Anika DeShields. She says they have to believe they actually did something wrong to apologize. I think totally agree. I definitely was just trying to see, like, if we can kind of come to a consensus around when apologies are appropriate, only because in the recent ones, obviously, that we are kind of talking about, I'm pretty sure that, as we mentioned, there's a few others that came up in the comments that are probably also done bad that never apologize. It's like, at what point are you just going to do just make it right? Like,
I do want to know if these people that have sentences like this, like Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Jacky, Cartel, Bougie Bones, like, we could just go through, and that's not all predators, but you know, people that are going into the system that are huge celebrities, that like all the business is all over the place. Are they getting therapy, or are they just left in the corner to deal with it themselves? Like, what
they need to heal. They have some trauma that they need to heal that we're not talking about.
We always say hurt people. So what happened to you to make you a rapist? What happened to you? What's your deep rooted trauma from your childhood that you didn't fix, that made you push forward and be who you are and what you did? Because, you know, nature versus nurture, and sometimes it's both.
Exactly. And so on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back with more of Good Day Bermuda. So make sure you do not go anywhere.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terry Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. If you're watching us over there on Facebook and you haven't already, make sure you give us a reaction. To those of you on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And to all of our tweets on Twitter, make sure you run up those hearts. We're going to get ready to have our Feel Good vibe of the day, which is Joke Time with Jackie. But before that, we want to get your thoughts on today's episode, so make sure you drop them in the comments. Jackie had a lot to say about today's conversation, but Jackie, what was your favorite part? What did you enjoy most?
I enjoyed hearing that we will now be changing Corkscrew Hill to Florida Hill. I love that type of stuff.
I do.
She busted her tail, and I think she deserves the heel that she triumphed on. Put in her name.
That she cut everyone else on. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cut tail. I love it.
I can say that although it's a heavy conversation, I definitely enjoy talking about, you know, the celebrities that are, I like talking about the victims that are getting their justice for those that were taken advantage of in whatever situation, not only just a sexual predator situation, but when someone's life is lost, when they are doing illegal activities. I think that it is something that should be talked about, and I think Jackie summed it up pretty well at the end, just talking about the therapy that needs to happen on both sides of the conversation, not just for the victim after the fact, but for the person that actually perpetrated the crime, because there's a lot to unpack underneath that person that we often just push under the rug because they've gone to jail and that's it, and that should be
nobody wants to actually, as you said yesterday, disturb their peace.
Yeah, we don't. A lot of us don't want to disturb our peace, and we like the ideas that we have kind of held on to.
I don't want to have that tough conversation. It's Sunday morning or it's Monday evening. I just sat down. Like, you're constantly pushing it back. Nope, it's here.
And on that note, Jack, let's kick it off with Joke Time with Jackie. For those of you that are just joining, all you have to do is drop a reaction if you're watching on Facebook or an emoji in the comments to let us know what you think of Joke Time with Jackie. Over to you, Jack.
Why didn't the skeleton climb the mountain?
He had no burns. Oh, he's all burns.
He didn't have the guts to. Sorry.
I was like, wait, a skeleton is burns, Teresa.
What do you call a snowman that's having a temper tantrum?
Heated.
Close. A meltdown. Kate, how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh?
Tentacles.
She did it, y'all. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
You know what's so funny? Like in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to be related to tentacles. I know it is. And then I was saying it out loud. I was like, my God, that is so funny.
I'm so happy. You got it. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. We hope that today's Feel Good Vibe of the day has you ready to make it a great one. And thank you for watching this episode of Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we trust we will see you tomorrow for another Feel Good conversation. Until the next episode, peace and have a good day, Bermuda.